In this video, I'm gonna share with you my 5 best tips to pass prop firm challenges and get funded as fast as possible. These tips are proven to work. In fact, I've personally used them to get funded countless times. And now, let's begin. The first tip is to use dynamic risk adjustment. So this means that you should start with a moderate risk per trade. So for example, if you are really conservative, you might start risking only 0.5% of your initial balance on every position, or if you are a bit more aggressive, you might start with 1%. Then based on the results of your first trade, you're going to adjust your risk. So for example, if the first trade was a loser, you're going to reduce your risk. On the contrary, if the first trade was a winner, you're going to maintain the same risk, or you might even think about increasing a bit. The goal is to survive as long as possible so that you can catch high probability setups where you can increase the amount of money that you risk on that specific trade, since these setups have a positive expectancy. The second tip is to match risk to your situation. This means that you shouldn't copy traders who can risk more. So, for example, if a trader has a bigger capital under management and is already used to trade with big sizes, if you start copying, you're going to inevitably fail, simply because the pressure is gonna be too much and you will start taking emotional decisions. So you should use small risk to stay emotionally stable. So basically use a risk that is proportional to your level of experience and also to your total capital. Okay? So again, you need to adapt your strategy based on your situation. Don't copy other traders because everyone is different, everyone has different level of experience, everyone performs differently under stress. So you should only match the risk to your specific situation and only trade size that make you comfortable. The third tip is that you should be aggressive but structured, and this specific tip only apply to traders who want to pass the challenge phase as fast as possible. So first thing, you should prioritize lower time frame, simply because using a lower time frame will give you the opportunity to have more trading opportunity in the same day. Next, every time you find a high probability setups, you should risk more, simply because these setups have a high probability of being winners. And so if you risk more every time you find one of them, you're gonna get to the funded stage faster. Last, once you get to phase 2, if for example you decided to buy a 2-phase challenge, you should lower your risk, simply because once you are in phase 2, you are actually closer to the funded stage than you are to failing the challenge. And so for this reason, you should become a bit more conservative so that you don't waste all the time and all the energy that you used to get to that point. The fourth tip is testing plus confidence. In fact, before even purchasing a prop firm challenge, in my opinion, you should backtest your strategy and also journal. As a result, this will build your confidence from real data and will make you more confident when you start trading with a real account. Not only that, using dynamic risk is gonna get easier, simply because now, based on your strategy, you know what are the setups where you have a high probability of winning, and as a result, you're also gonna know when you should attack and when you should defend. Attack is when you can risk more because you expect to win. Instead, defend is when you're gonna risk less because you are not sure about that setup, or maybe that a setup that only is a winner, for example 20 or 30% of the time. So it's still worth taking, but with a lower amount. The fifth and last tip is that you should have patience and discipline. In fact, prop trading is a multi-year skill, is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And especially if you are a beginner, my suggestion is also to use higher time frame, because they will allow you to stay calmer, since the market is gonna move slower, and also these setups that you find on higher time frame usually are a lot more reliable, and there is also less noise in the charts. You should also not over leverage or overexpose. I think that over leverage is normal and a lot of people talk about it. Instead, when it comes to overexpose, this is an error that a lot of beginner traders do. In fact, if you have multiple position opens, especially when they are on pairs that are related, you are putting yourself at a high risk. In fact, you just need, for example, a news event to happen on something in the market to change, to basically get liquidated and to fail the challenge really fast. So it's really important that you don't over leverage and don't overexpose. Lastly, you should know the rules of your prop firm, because a lot of time you might be trading really well, your strategy might be working, but without even knowing you might break one of the rules of the prop firms and you might end up failing the challenge anyway. Talking about prop firms, in case you still don't know which prop firm you should pick, my suggestion is to go with Ola Prime, because that's the prop firm that I personally use on a daily basis, and there are three main reasons why that's the prop firm that I use. Reason number one is because Ola Prime deliver 1 hour payouts. In fact, thanks to a 10-point solid payout system that includes things like, for example, robust policies, cushion funds, risk monitoring, market checker system, and swift execution, Ola Prime always guaranteed that you're gonna get paid in under 60 minutes every single time. And this is possible because all the payouts are calculated at the end of every trading day. In this way, Ola Prime is able to stay ahead, verifying compliance and preparing payouts amount in advance. The second reason is because Ola Prime is the only prop firm that releases a transparency report. This is basically a document that compares the quotes of Ola Prime to the quotes on Dukascopy and two other leading brokers. And as you can see, there will never a difference bigger than 0.01%. So this basically means that the prices and the quotes that you are seeing inside Ola Prime are actually the true quotes and prices of the market. And as a result, this means that when you trade with Ola Prime, you will never be subject to price manipulation. And when it comes to prop firm, this is really important, because if you are subject to price manipulation, this means that you may end up failing a prop firm challenge, even if in reality you made all the right decisions. The last reason why I use Ola Prime is because this prop firm give you access to one-on-one session with expert trading coaches. And if you know anything about forex and trading education, you know that this type of session can cost hundreds of dollars an hour, and Ola Prime give you access to them completely for free. In fact, as you can see, currently there are 3 different coaches that you can pick. You have Richard, you have Tiger, and you have Stanislava. And if you decide to have a mentorship session with any one of them, you're gonna be able to talk about things like strategic refinement, risk management mastery, real-time application, in-depth market analysis, and so on. And as you can see, these are the 3 coaches. You have Richard, Tiger, and Stanislava. And in case you want to work with any one of them, you just need to click on this book now button. It's gonna redirect you to their Calendly page, where you can pick the exact date and time when you wanna talk with them, and so that they can help you become a better trader. So there you have it. These were my 5 best tips to pass challenges and get it funded as fast as possible. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and until next time, happy trades!